Hi and welcome to the Omnia Radiation Balancer education channel, and today we're going to be talking about how to harmonize any radiation field including 5G. To explain how to harmonize 5G fields, we have to take you on a little journey. First, we'll explain the true concept of the atom and cell, and in particular how electrical current moves and spins in the human cell. Then we'll show you how the radiation field is different. The spin of electrical current in a radiation field tells us why man-made radiation harms us. And with this knowledge, we can discover how to make a 5G radiation field harmless, the Omnia way. The good news is that all energy forms can be transmuted and brought back to balance and harmony, even 5G fields. However, you have to know why they're harmful in the first place. So everything we're going to cover today is based on the science of Dr. Ilija Lakicevic, or Laki, who is the inventor of the Omnia Radiation Balancer, and we'll put links below to all of his journal papers that he's published, which detail his concepts in science covering the atom, gravity, the laws of creation, the rewriting of E equals mc squared, all sorts of things like that, for those people who want to deep dive into his science. But what we're going to do today is just keep it really simple so that everyone can understand exactly why radiation harms us, and then we're going to look at what it is in a radiation field that needs to be corrected in order for it to be rendered harmless. So first up, what we're going to do is show you very quickly a picture of your blood cells within the human body. So what you can see in those pictures is effectively donuts. You can see a spinning torus field of electrical current or white light. And inside the middle of that, you've got an empty space. And what Dr. Lakicevic has found is that within that empty space at the center is a point of magnetic still zero electrical potential. Meaning that there's a magnetic point which is effectively what we call the 0 point. And that 0 point holds the donut shape in shape. So if you're going to look at a torus field, a bunch of blood cells within the body, they look like this. And if you put them under a microscope and looked at them in a live blood analysis experiment, then they would look like this in 2D, but also in the negative photographic form. So black is white and white equals black. Basically, we're looking at both the same thing, one in 3D, one in 2D. And now what we're going to do is just have a look at a cell as if it was just a circle from the top of the torus field, and it would look something like this. So that's the outside of the donut, and then this is the inside of the donut here. And within the center of that donut or that torus field is the still magnetic point of no electrical potential. So what happens is the light ring, that is the cell, borrows the energy from that still magnetic point to spin itself around this magnetic point, and then it discharges itself to the ether. So it makes itself into matter, into our cells, in our body, and then it discharges itself into the ether. And then that is recycled via the 0 point here, and then it spins itself again. So what we have is an oscillation between what we call the compression of the light ring or the blood cell into matter, and then a discharge into the ether. So these cells are moving so fast that the human eye can't see the motion, the oscillation of the two phases, which is also what we call the frequency. The light ring makes itself into matter and then discharges itself so fast that it seems like the donut is permanent, but it's actually moving in these two phases. This is the life and death cycle of each atom or cell. And the 0 point at the center holds the donut or the torus field in shape while it goes through these two phases. And that process keeps going on, off, life, death, life, death, life, death, all the time until your cells eventually die. They go through the whole life-death cycle, and in the end, the death cycle wins. So That sequence, that oscillation between the compression and the expansion is frequency. It's the speed at which it makes itself and discharges itself. And you have different frequencies or speeds of oscillation within your body. You have different frequencies in your liver, to your heart, to your brainwaves, etc. So what we're saying is that this still magnetic point is what gives birth to this ring of light. And it's the same in a blood cell as it is in this whiteboard or in this marker pen. They're all made of atoms. But the difference between my body and the atoms in this marker pen is that I have a mind to move my body around and to decide what I'm going to have for lunch, for example. I'm effectively a mental being in a body, and I direct certain things. But for example, I don't say how my fingernails are going to grow. That is due to the operating system of the body. So what we're saying is that this magnetic 0 point here actually has divine intelligence. It almost tells the body how to operate. It tells the body what to do. So there's one further point that I wish to explain about the balance of this cell and the centeredness, because when you have a perfectly formed toroidal field in the cell, you have health. But that depends on the compression phase being equal to the expansion or the discharge phase. So when these two phases are in equilibrium or in balance, then you have a centered 0 point and you have a perfectly formed torus field of spinning light. And what that means is that there is rhythmic balanced interchange between the compression phase and the expansion phase. So what Laki calls the RBI, the rhythmic balanced interchange, is vital for the health and the vitality and the balance within the cell. So one last point is that this magnetic point here that resides at the center of this torus field here, that magnetic point is actually connected to all of the other magnetic points inside every single other atom, everything in existence. And effectively, that becomes the divinely intelligent field waiting for the matter to come out and be created and to manifest itself. So that is the field of all divine intelligence. It's effectively the creator field. But also, that creator field, or the God field, and Laki believes that science is spiritual because there is spirit inside every atom. There is intelligence inside of every atom. That 0 point is listening all the time to what we as mental beings are projecting. So we could be thinking thoughts of violence and rage or envy or disgust or something like that, and that 0 point will be listening inside our bodies. It will cause a reaction inside our bodies. Or we could be thinking thoughts of love, of harmony, of gratitude, positive things, and then that 0 point will also be listening to that energy. Because that's the trade-off, that's the relationship that we have with the 0 point, which is really important for what we're going to explain next. So now we're going to look at a radiation field and look at how the spin of the electrical current is different in this wave field. So if we're going to draw a radiation field, it's going to look something like this. So in its first phase, it's basically going to spin like this around the magnetic 0 point in the middle, just as the atom or the cell does. And what happens is the electrical current in the field gets dragged away from the original 0 point of that wave field. So it ends up going to here. The magnetic 0 point goes to here, for example, and the light ring follows it, going to here, and then it will go to here, and the light ring follows it, going to here, and then it goes to here, and the light ring follows it, going to here, and then it goes to here, and the light ring also follows it, going to here. So you can see that what we have as a pattern in terms of the wave field is something that is uncentered and imbalanced, meaning that the 0 point moves around, not staying in the center as we wish it to do in the center of a cell, for example. So what we have is we have a lack of rhythmic balanced interchange between the compression phase and the expansion phase. There is a reason for that, which I won't go into here, which is that the expansion phase is actually greater than the compression phase. But let's just say that we just have an imbalance and an un-centredness within this field. So if you see this wave field here and compare it to what we were looking at in the cell earlier on, where you had the optimum vitality and healthy balance of a cell with the 0 point dialed into the geometric center, the man-made radiation field has one characteristic, which is un-centredness and of 0 point, and therefore imbalance within the wave field. And it's what I call an agitated wave field. It never settles. So that's the big difference. And what we're going to see a bit later on is how this field then affects the human cell. So now what we're going to do is show what happens when the human body comes into contact with a mobile phone, which is drawn here. And that mobile phone is characterized, as we said earlier on, with a radiation field which moves from here to here to here to here. So the radiation field is basically going like this. Totally different wave field patterns. One has rhythmic balanced interchange, and the other one does not have that rhythmic balanced interchange. It has un-centredness and imbalance. So why are we drawing this? Well, the key point that we're going to make is the fundamental reason why the human cell reacts to a radiation field is that this 0 point here within all of our cells is always listening to what it encounters, what it experiences. So for example, if I hear good music or music that resonates with me, that is likely to stay into the center. And there's certain frequencies that have been proven to cause that effect, like 432 hertz, right? So I respond to good things like sunlight, like a hug, like good music, but I also respond to things that are out of sync with me because this 0 point is always listening. It's almost like it has consciousness and it's programmed to respond. So what happens is when I pick up a mobile phone and this field comes into contact, close proximity with this field here, this 0 point here starts to pick up, because of the resonant effect, starts to pick up the electrical imbalance of this wave field. So effectively, what will happen to this cell is that it will also adopt the same vibrational pattern, going like this, right? Our live blood analysis experiment showed that after watching 20 minutes of video on a mobile phone, the majority of the sample stuck together like this. This happens because the radiation has compromised the electrical balance of the cell. By contrast, when the orb was on the phone, the blood returned to its natural torus or donut shape. That is the effect that will happen between the radiation field and the human blood cell, because we are beings of electricity, we are beings of energy, frequency and vibration, right? So the challenge is, how do we get this radiation field back to centeredness and balance, which is something that we're going to come to in just a second. So now we're going to have a look at how we make this field into something that resonates, this radiation field, something that resonates with the electrical field of the human cell. And this is how we do it at Omnia. So we mentioned earlier on that Dr. Lakicevic has found out the reason why this field, when it resonates and it's out of balance, will cause an imbalance in the human cell. So he's also managed to find the solution for keeping this in balance. So what we do is we put a sticker on this phone, which I'm going to just draw there in the little green patch. And what happens is this. Dr. Lakicevic has identified a new unit of energy, which he calls the Deca. It's a dodecahedron in shape. And what it is a 12-sided pentagon, and on each 5-sided surface there's a cone of spinning light or current. and the light spins in towards the center of the structure. Now, the dodecahedron is a very powerful geometric shape. It houses all of the platonic solids, and by nature it is very robust. But when it has those 12 cones of spinning light that go into the center, then it's held in perfect balance. And get this, the Deca is also listening to conscious human intent. It's awaiting our instructions as a unit of energy. So what he's found is that he can command this unit of energy to do what he wants it to do. So because he knows the reason why radiation fields become imbalanced, and I showed you the center point moving all over the place earlier on, because he knows what it is that needs to be brought back to centeredness, he can actually program this unit of energy called the Deca. I'm going to draw it like this. So this unit of energy here is absolutely tiny. It's about 100 times smaller than an electron, so it's invisible. But he can capture it with a magnetic process and then use it to imprint into the sticker that goes on the phone with specific instructions. So what happens is, previously the radiation field would have gone like this, and now with the Deca it goes back to this. And the reason is because this Deca field here within this patch has spoken to this 0 point and said, get back into the center of the field. So once this phone here has got this patch on it here with the Deca technology that brings the field into balance, it doesn't matter how strong that field is. It could be 2G, 4G, 5G. It will always return to balance. And the key thing to notice here is that not all radiation fields are harmful. For example, the sun is a balanced radiation field. And granted, it's hot and it will burn my skin, for example, but ultimately it doesn't do the damage that microwave radiation fields created by man can do to the human body. And we all know from all the reports from the Bioinitiative study, for example, and the NTP cancer study, that these fields, when they're not balanced, can cause harm to rats, DNA damage, endocrine system damage, cancers, cognitive function impairments, infertility, a massive range of things. And the reason is because it's vibrational. The reason why we get upset or our cells get imbalanced and upset is because this 0 point will talk to that 0 point. And if that 0 point is all over the place, then this is going to be all over the place as well. But thanks to the Deca technology that sits here, that sits in the patch, and by the way, this is a spinning, this is effectively a unit of energy that never runs out. So it's permanent. Once the patch is on the phone, any radiation field that comes into that phone will be balanced, just like this. So what we have here is actually resonance between these two fields. So what we would advise you to do is have a look at our test results, which show that the body strengthens up, it aligns itself, and incidentally, the last thing to mention is that the most important test that we do is on water. So what we do is we hold a phone next to 3 glasses of water. One's the baseline, the next one is radiated with no Omnia Radiation Balancer patch on it, and we see what happens to the structure of that. And then the last one has the Omnia Radiation Balancer applied, and then we literally hold the phone right next to the water, make a phone call for 5 minutes. And what happens with the water? Well, the water picks up the resonant effect, the centeredness of the radiation field, and the water then develops into a perfect crystalline structure. So the water ends up being hexagonal in shape. So what we see is this beautiful hexagonal crystal structure within water when we have the Omnia Radiation Balancer applied. And that's good news for your body, because your body is between 70 and 90% water. In fact, your blood is over 90% water. And other parts in your body, like your bones, are not so prominent in water. So I hope you've understood a little bit more about the resonant effect that happens between a radiation field if it's left untamed, and how that impacts the human cell, but also how when we put a Omnia Radiation Balancer patch on a phone, on a Wi-Fi router, on a laptop, in a car, on a smart meter, every radiating device can have a patch on it. But once we've done that, we return this field to centeredness and balance so that there is no dissonant effect between these two wave fields. And in fact, this wave field in the cell actually resonates well with that radiation field. So there you go. That's the Omnia way of bringing any 5G field back to balance. We hope you found that really interesting. If you've got any questions, please send them to us at hello@omniabalance.life. And please check out our testing results. And we've got some results on heart rate variability that are coming up very soon, which are really exciting too, which shows that the heart rhythms do not get stressed by phone radiation when you put our patch on the phone. Thanks for watching. See you soon. Click here to see the 3 tests video, and you can also catch our video series called The Time for the Truth Is Now. And you can always subscribe to the Omnia Balance channel to receive more informative videos like these.